Okay, thank you. First of all, I think Jeff and me is too late to be the next Google or Amazon because we are too old. But I think what he's pointing out is for those of young generation sit over here. So first of all, I'd like to show you a little bit about what is we are facing. And this is an article written by Jeff Houston in the 2006. But I don't know he remember or not. And which word he would pick at today, I think this is a very interesting article. And I believe in this community, most of us read it, seriously. Second of all, I'd like to talk a little bit about why the IPv6. I think that Jeff pointed several of that. And as you know, the ICANN allocate the last 5/8, the v4 address to the 5RR on the February of this year. And Epinik also announced the last /8 on the April. The new service and device is coming to introduce to the market. And as you know, for example, the smartphone, for example, the compute tax in Taiwan, everybody crazy about a tablet PC. It's almost every PC maker making a tablet PC try to compete with the iPad. So you can see, so many different devices and so many smartphones is coming in the market. And if we look at those of the top 10, the website that is in the Alexa survey, many of them actually did not exist 10 years ago. If you remember when the Facebook really happened, I think it's back to almost just 2004. And the people in the 2004, the Facebook is not so famous yet. And Facebook actually get famous is only about in the 2007. So that means more than the new devices and the smartphone, actually, we are looking for the new application and new services. The same thing as Twitter. The Twitter is only happened in the 2003. So you can see we are going to introduce more application and more services and new devices in the future, unless we don't want the future. We want to live as today. So the next part is I'd like to introduce a little bit what is IPv6 in Taiwan. The IPv6 in Taiwan actually is not very new. The first IPv6 started in Taiwan is back to the 1997. I don't know how many of you sit here. Do you know Internet 2? Can you raise your hand? Anybody heard of Internet 2? See? I think you can see most of the young generation even don't remember what is the Internet 2 yet. Actually, in Taiwan, we start Internet 2 as running in the IPv6 for the experimental. But then later on, of course, this is only in the research communities and a little bit with university and academia. And then start from the 2002, the government began to put the money into the IPv4 project. And we thought about, at that time, I think you might remember that is, who is that person in Europe? And he predicted the IPv4 will run out in the 2005. So the Taiwan we are so worried about, we need to be running fast because as you know, the Taiwan is very important to making the components, client, devices, because that is how the Taiwan can survive. Every iPhone you have came from the Taiwanese businessman. Every iPad you have came from the Taiwanese businessman. So they are very sensitive. They are sensitive about what is their future in that area. So in the 2002 and until now, actually in the last 10 years, in Taiwan government, we put almost about $50 million just into the promoting IPv6. And of course, one of that is so-called is the IPv6 Summit. But the most expensive is not in the promotion. The most expensive actually is building the IPv6 networking on the whole islands, connecting every university, every high school, and every elementary school. And how many of total of the nodes is connecting with IPv6 is around 4,875 nodes is connected. But the problem is, where is the applications? What is the service we can provide to them? So we are going to develop some of the things. Here I have some Chinese. Maybe Jeff cannot read it, but I think some of the Hong Kong people, you can read it. Basically, in the project, is divided into 4 different parts. The first part is the infrastructure. The second part actually is doing the research and development. The number 3 actually is doing the so-called, the ready logo testing. And frankly speaking, I never like it. Everybody run the networking. We know the ready logo doesn't mean anything. Whenever the machine brings to your side, you need to test again. So the ready logo doesn't buy anything. So that is but whatever, that is the government tried to promote the OEM manufacturing in Taiwan to produce the V6 ready devices, because they suppose those V6 devices can, as a PC, as a notebook, as a LCD panel, to sell to all over the world, to generate another good fortune for Taiwan businessmen. The next one, of course, is the promotion and, of course, doing the international collaborations. And 8 years past, we spent almost $15 million. But then by this year, the government tried to figure out what is the outcome? What is going on? Is any improvement? Do we can see any, the traffic or application or services is happening in the IPv6? Frankly speaking, by late of the last year, the government checked these 2 projects. For 8 years, we didn't see a very happy number. Just like the Jeff Houston talking about, the traffic is very low. It's almost 0. And I can tell you, in Taiwan, the Taiwan Academic Networking, we have 2 rings. The one ring run for the V4, another ring actually run for the V6. For the V4, we can see daily about 10 to 15 gigabits per day, every seconds. But we look at the IPv6 traffic, it's quite frustrating, because no more than 40 megabits per second. It's even slower than your PC, And so the government like to know what's going on, Is a future we can see the V6 coming, And so in this year, the government began to overlook and set up the whole panel to discuss that. So we find out some of the problem. First of all, I think this is not new for most of the peoples. The V4 and the V6 actually is not compatible. And we have to live with the 2 network at the same time for a while. And maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe even longer. The V6, the problem is not a single space. What's that mean? Because a lot of V6 do not have a good buildings. Just about September last year in Taiwan, the V6, they even cannot look each other. They don't connect. And until find out, because the traffic is so low, so the people didn't figure out the router actually is crashed. until they find out, oh yeah, because it's crashed, and why nobody complain? Because nobody use. If nobody use, nobody complain, right? So that is the problems. And so we find that actually in the V6, not only in Taiwan, even in the world, you thought about that is the V6 websites there, but actually you cannot visit it. You cannot find it until you make a peering, you make some exchange with that. So that is some of the issue happen. And also create some of the problem for the user-friendly. Actually, they just mentioned about. When you turn on the V6, sometimes it's really getting slow, And there is many issue actually is discussed in the February meeting, the April meeting, also in Hong Kong. There is a whole day of the discussion about the V6 issues. Another problem is a very limited service provided by ISP. For example, in my home, I try to call my telephone company, no matter the Zhonghua Telecom, Far Eastern, or the Thai Mobile, and say, do you provide a V6? They say, yes, we do, but must be dedicated line. And dedicated line is not like an ADSL. It's very expensive. So it's difficult to get the connection of the IPv6 from the ISP. And if you ask the ISP why you don't do that, and they will say, well, we are waiting for business to happen. And in that case, so they are not going to do that. So for the last two meetings in this year, in the February, also in the March, in the government high-rank officer, I cannot tell you the detail, but I can tell you basically the policy is. The government V6 policy in Taiwan, at the last meeting, we decide two things. The first thing is the public sector must take the lead. Public sector must do it first. Public sector need to do the V6 implementation, provide the services. At the same time, public sector can help to build the experience, eventually to share with the private sectors. The second goal is that we try to design an incentive for the private sectors. I don't know this kind of the strategies are popular in Hong Kong or not, but it's very popular in Taiwan. Every time that when the private sector identifies that this is not profit making in this moment, they will call to the government and say, you need to give me something, so I'm willing to provide the services. And the government will say, okay, if that is a potential market layer, the government willing to do that. The incentive can have a two-way. The first way is tax-free. Okay, that means if you provide the V6 services, we can give you a tax-free. The second thing is we can subsidize some of the cost. Just like Jeff Houston say, if I provide a V6, you want to charge more money? Of course, we don't want to pay it. And the government say, okay, what about the government? We pay some of that. Maybe 40%, 50%, or 60%. So there is more customer willing to subscribe and ISP willing to provide the services. So at this moment, as I know, these two policy is almost settled. I would say almost settled. I mean, the first one is not settled. The second one is settled. The second one is settled is for the incentive to the private sectors. The first one is not settled. Is for the Hong Kong people, you might know, the president election in Taiwan is very exciting day, and that will be happening in the early next year, When that president election day in the early of next year, the government usually don't do anything, just wait until see which party will win the game, and then they will take the side. So that is the problem right now is the first part, we have consensus. But how is the government going to, put the money to do the implementation, provide the service? Frankly speaking, right now, I would say we need to wait until January next year when the winner is announced, then the action will be taken. But the second part, I think, will be come out very soon in the third quarter or October this year. There will be no problem about that. So that is what is that in Taiwan. And as ICANN, just like Jeff Houston always told me, he's the number people, I'm the name people. And I said, no, I'm not only the name people, I'm also the number people too. And what we can do in ICANN, to help to make the IPv6 in operation in a better way. The first of all, as you know, if we want to make the V6 in operations, the DNS, TLD DNS must turn on the V6, GTLD or CCTLD. And you will be very surprised, not all the GTLD DNS turn on the V6 yet. Right now, we have a total 21 GTLD, only 15 turn on. Have 6 is not turned on yet. So, of course, we will try to pursue and encourage them to turn on. For the CCTLD DNS, right now, actually only 68% of the CCTLD DNS is turned on the V6 services. So that means when you visit the website and try to check the V6 AA records, if they didn't turn on the V6, you cannot find it because it's not there. So that is still have a 32% of the CCTLD didn't turn on. So that is the first part. I think in the sometime this year, hopefully in the Singapore, we will be informed at least let the CCNSO and the GNSO to understand, if IPv6, the success of the IPv6 is not only the responsibility of IR. A lot of people put the responsibility of IPv6 success is to the IR and IETF, but it's wrong. This is the whole community. It's not only a part of the community. Everybody needs to participate. If we don't participate, that is very difficult to make it happen. So the next thing what we can do, as you know, anyone like to sell, like to make a business in the domain name, there will be the registrar registered in the ICANN member. And of course, the registrar, we wish them, they can have some incentive or they can do something to encourage their name holder to turn on the AA records. Hopefully, in that case, the data center willing to do the same thing. If the data center don't do the V6 services, again, nothing can happen. So it's not only the name industry, also not only the number industry, also the name industry. I think we need to all participate in these IPv6 activities. So finally, for today, I think this is a World IPv6 Day, and many of the big companies join this game and hoping to work together to get connected with a V6. If where is broken, we can find it, we can peeling it, we can connect it, or hopefully we even can fix it. And we also like to develop in the potential business for the V6. If after today everything looks fine, then I think the potential and the business opportunity will be created. Once the business opportunity can be created, I think the people will come in and join to, to make this V6 is workable. And I think you just hear the Jeff talking about that. The V6 is not only because we must have it or we must use the IPv6 because we don't want to go back to the old day. Thinking about that this day, if you are using the iPhone, using the iPad, Apple is getting be a very close network. Every transit or buying or any posting the selling in the Apple Apple Store, Apple will charge money. Apple even charge the telcos company money. They share the traffic or they share the voice phone. So I think this is a interesting day. Particularly if we are looking for a better future and still using the very open internet, I think we need to work harder to make the V6 really success. And hopefully after today, we have a confidence, we have opportunity, and we can see the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kuo-Wei. After knowing how Taiwan is moving into V6 world, let's try to understand the current reality in Hong Kong. May we now invite Cheng, Convener of IPv6 Working Group, Internet Society Hong Kong, and Associate Director, Infrastructure of IT Services in the Chinese University of Hong Kong.
Thank you. Kuo-Wei just mentioned the Taiwanese government may give incentive to the Taiwanese people to do IPv6. But for the people in Hong Kong, maybe we can make use of the $6,000 that we'll get to do IPv6. This is not mine. And my take from Jeff is I don't think he is anti-telco. Well, we all need to have telco to provide us the connectivity, but I think he is more anti-monopoly, right? So anyway, and now it's time for me to talk about Hong Kong, and I think my talk is probably the most boring session of today. Luckily, I only have 15 minutes, so yeah, please bear with me. And first of all, I think I need to tell you more about the reality. Essentially, nowadays, in ISPs in Hong Kong, cannot get new IPv4 addresses from APNIC anymore after getting the last /22. And this last 22 is for APNIC members only. And in other words, well, we cannot get IPv4 address very soon. And we will see trading of IPv4 addresses may become active. And if you go to APNIC meeting, you see a lot of proposal about how to do transfer IPv4 addresses, which we didn't think of 10 years ago. 10 years ago, nobody talked about this, but nowadays we will actually allow it happen because we are really running out of IPv4 address. And we'll foresee that the cost of running IPv4 will inevitably become higher and higher because we have to consume IPv4 address, and IPv4 address will have a higher and higher value. And remember, about 1 month ago, Microsoft bought the address of Nortel, and it cost how much? Millions? Yeah, 7.5 millions. So this somehow gives us some idea of the cost of IPv4 address. And now we are saying that deploying IPv6 is more about business survival. I would say you may lose business if you do not support IPv6. Talk about IPv6 in Hong Kong. I would say Hong Kong is lagging behind the neighboring countries, neighboring economies. We started quite late. But, well, I would say we are catching up. And we have progressed quite a bit after, the conference that we held 1.5 years ago. Yeah. It's the credit to us. And more people are aware of IPv4 address exhaustion issue. And if we look at the so-called backbone ISPs, in fact, most of them are providing IPv6 transit services already. For business-oriented ISPs, one of my friends did a market survey, and we found that at least 6 ISPs are providing IPv6 access services in limited scale. That means if you are a business, you can get IPv6 access now in Hong Kong. But for residential broadband ISPs, as I know, nobody is providing IPv6 service yet. But the good news is they are doing trial. It's not an easy thing to do because there are a lot of equipment involved. There are CPE devices, there are a lot of back-end equipments involved. But I think soon, maybe in a not very distant future, we will have IPv6 access service at home. As for mobile operators, I think all are testing out IPv6. I hope they will roll out IPv6 service soon. Content providers, web hosting service providers, from what I see, they are starting to realize the importance of IPv6. And just these 2 months, I observe quite a number of web hosting companies. They are turning on their IPv6 for the connection to HKIX. Well, I think we should give a lot of credit to our government because they have enabled most of their websites to run IPv6, and that is a very good example for the governments around the region, and it also set an example for us to do things to do more things for IPv6. Universities, of course, I think people rely on us to leak the technology, but somehow for the IPv6 backbone part, transport part, well, we have enabled it, but we haven't done a lot of work on servers or other parts. Like when you look at the survey, online survey done by Mark Pryor, I look at it almost every day, and it seems there's not much change. And still, there are only 2 green boxes, which is my university, and the other universities have not done much on enabling IPv6 for web server, mail server, and DNS server. But for people to test out IPv6, in fact, you can use the free tunnel broker, the 6-to-4 relay in Hong Kong, provided by some of the service providers here in Hong Kong. You can test out IPv6 at home, even if the residential broadband cannot provide you that access. You can use the tunnel. That's, I would say, is a very good thing. Okay, I am doing HKIX, so we can know a bit about the IPv6 development around Hong Kong. And we support IPv6 since 2004. Of course, at that time, only very, very few HKIX participants turn on IPv6. But now, today, we have 71 networks we call autonomous systems. Out of 153 autonomous systems have their IPv6 enabled at HKIX. When compared with 1.5 years ago, we only had 35 ASs enable IPv6, and many of them actually activated their IPv6 just in the last 3 months. I look at the statistics. It's about 3 months ago, we only had like 58 networks enable IPv6, but now we have 71. Which is very good news. I think people are starting to realize the need of doing IPv6. And of course, for this part, it's just a starting part, because for connecting to HKIX is the backbone connection. So that's the first step. There are still a lot of things to do, but at least this is a very good start. And we also see the domain name related servers like the root servers, the top level domain servers at HKIX. Most of them, they have their IPv6 transport enabled. So when we do IPv6 DNS queries, we will receive the same fast response at IPv4. In the last month, my team have been trying to enable the statistics to look at the IPv6 traffic when compared with the total traffic, but we have not been quite successful because it's quite difficult. But we will continue to try. But when it's available, I'll let you know. But still, I would guess we still have only less than 1% of the traffic is IPv6. And I hope after this we'll have, after this World IPv6 Day, we can see higher growth of IPv6 traffic. And I hope, we will get to the milestone of like 10%, 20% within this year. If you want to take a look at which HKIX participants enable IPv6 address, you can go to these two links. And if you want to select ISPs, I would say you should take a look at that list first. Don't select those ISPs which have not enabled IPv6. That's my advice. There are other observations, and I think people are now aware of it's very easy to get IPv6 address from APNIC. And for like the top level domain, which has their home in Hong Kong, like .hk, they have support the Quad A good record. .asia support Quad A good record, and registrar support is increasing. And one thing I think we need to remind people is, okay, of course, websites are important, but when we do IPv6, we should also do some other things like mail services, like NTP services, and some others. And I hope we will have all of our services IPv6 enabled instead of just do the website. Okay, I'm from Chinese U, and I'm doing HKIX, but of course I'm wearing a lot of hats. But we have very good partnership with a lot of local entities in Hong Kong to do IPv6 activities and do IPv6 promotion in Hong Kong. We have these partners led by, of course, ISOC Hong Kong, and of course HKIX and Cyberport and others. And we have done a lot of IPv6 activities in the last few years, starting from December 2007, the APNIC training in Hong Kong. And in just the last year, I think we have done a lot of work in promoting IPv6, and we have seen, very good turnout. And I think this helped, people to get more understanding of the importance of the issue. And even like last week, we have a talk in Science Park. And it had a very good turnout. Thanks to Warren, he helped a lot on this, and we have today. And in the coming future, we will continue to partner together to do IPv6 related activities. Another thing I think you are aware is, we have the IPv6 website directory, and I hope this can help you to test out the local IPv6 connectivity instead of just going out to the overseas to test out the overseas IPv6 connectivity. And talk about my university. We have just gotten the endorsement from the IT Policy Committee to have a campus-wide IPv6 deployment as our IT direction. The implementation will be led by my department, the IT Services Center. And in fact, of course, our backbone is already IPv6 ready, and we are running dual stack. For the main public-facing services, we have to make it implemented first, like DNS, main website, NTP servers are already done, and we will do mail services and other services soon. I mean, mail, of course, is not easy. I would say it's not easy. It's quite complicated. And it's also very important, so we need to be a bit more careful when we do that. But still, I think it's very important for us to enable IPv6 for that. As for support to other departments, I think you all know Chinese University is very big. We have almost 200 departments. Each and every one of them have their own servers, and they have their own PCs and everything. And we will need to help them to do the procurement, selection of hardware and software, and we will, just like OGCIO, will mandate IPv6 as the mandatory requirement. We will also give them implementation guidelines, configuration templates, and we'll do training. And I would say, our university is IPv6 committed. And I think you all can help push IPv6 to happen faster. If you have new equipment and software, most updated software support IPv6, you just need to carefully turn it on and run the dual stack. And there's not much extra cost. Just need to take a bit of time and effort. But do be aware of the possible security issues, because we don't want IPv6 to be the backdoor for the hackers. But when you do replacement of old equipment software, you should make, just like what I said, you should make IPv6 the mandatory requirements. And when you select your ISP, you have to make that as the mandatory requirement, just like what I said. If they don't do IPv6, you just don't select them. And my another advice is that you should favor providers and vendors which have started to do IPv6 earlier, because they will have more experience to do better IPv6 implementation. I had some bad experience on the firewall vendors. A lot of them actually supported IPv6 since like 2-3 years ago, but when you use IPv6, you cannot have high availability option. I mean, that is quite ridiculous to us. But gradually, of course, I think more of them are now, offering a high availability also. So that's why I mentioned, you need to give favor to those vendors which can support IPv6 area because they will know what to do better IPv6. Well, a lot of people actually mentioned it already. So, I mean, there is very big business opportunity, new business opportunity regarding the Internet of Things. And it can only limited by our imagination. In the past, we have limitation of IP address, IPv4 address, but now we don't have that limitation with IPv6. We can give a lot of address to a lot of different devices, like the mic that I'm holding and things like that. And we should try to think new services, new ideas to make use of this, take advantage of this new environment. But don't forget about the security part. Security is still very important. And don't be too overexcited by that huge address space. Okay, I've talked too much already, and after I mentioned that many things, I have one conclusion. Hong Kong is slowly getting ready for IPv6. Thank you.
Thank you, Chi Hu.